there, it's Marie and welcome to Friday Sews episode 36 part 2. This is a continuation of my self-drafted spring vintage inspired beginner friendly blouse, and this particular idea for you is that same pattern drafted into a dress. No worries, if you don't want to do any self-drafting, I will have some pattern suggestions for you that are very similar to what I made. So I hope you'll stick around and see the process taught through, and maybe some of the vintage treasures that I've collected and are trying to use with my garment creations will inspire you in some way. So here goes. I had purchased these in an antique shop. They came in a pack of 6. I thought they were 6 like ample napkins, but they were actually, it was a napkin that was cut in half, and then somebody did a fine seam to finish the edge. So there were 6 halves, or basically it would have been 3 holes. But I was thankful for this. But yeah, when you're a crafter or a maker, you can think of ways to, oh, this would even be cute on this. I mean, you can think of ways to incorporate this into a garment. Dress. Now again, this is just self-drafted, and it really is basically taking that blouse and adding a lower skirt, and I just basically took the measurements of the front section and doubled that, and I did the same with the back. I took the measurement of the back piece and doubled that, and then just did a gathering stitch and joined the pieces. My stash and my goal is to really this year sew and use what I have before buying more fabric. So I love how flowy this is, and this has such an old-fashioned vintage feel. Napkin here because I also wanted to show you that sometimes just even finding, here's another example. This is like I think this is more of like a good cotton, but it's got cherries and cherry blossoms on it, and you could cut this and use it as some type of collar or add it as pockets or lots of different things. So kind of think out of the box when you are looking at vintage linens and come up with some ideas for your garments. And I have, remember, 6 of these halves, so I thought, let's try this and see what happens. I had some beautiful creamy linen left from my stash that's more of a medium weight. Now the one thing I noticed is this is heavier, so it's pulling a little bit. So I decided to put some very fine, almost fisheye darts here up to the apex of the bust. Yeah. So I felt like in doing that, it gave it a little bit more of a feminine touch as opposed to it just hanging because of the weight of the skirt. It was really pulling. So I also feel like this is adding some reinforcement. So I tried this on and then just kind of pinned with some silk pins. Be careful if you use these. They're very sharp, but just kind of pinned where the apex of the bust was, and then just kind of pinch pleated it and used those silk pins to kind of get my markings, and then went back and pressed and worked with it before I did the actual stitching. Then I needed a way to tie this bottom half, which again, this drops to below the hip. And I think this like reminds me of like a 1930s style dress. It's really cute. But so I had a little more to add. This is almost like a double flounce. So again, the drop sleeve, then the solid, and then this, I needed to pull in the neutrals and I wanted to pull in the spring green. So I found this eclectic, fun fabric that is designed by, I don't have a lot left, but it's designed by Kathy Holden from Moda Fabrics, and I believe it's the flea market mix, or yeah. So I'm sure a lot of you out there are familiar with it, especially if you are a quilter. So this was fun. I had a little bit of that, and I just kind of, when I cut the flounce, I made sure that I wasn't cutting off any heads or anything, and you know, I was trying to look for things that I really wanted on this dress. So there's a kind of a Victorian lady, and I think I have maybe a butterfly. But anyway, so this has been fun, and I'm almost finished. I just have to add the back neck facing, and then the front. And then last but not least, this I'm going to add a snap to so that it can come off when I wash this. But this is just a little handmade crocheted flower that I made using just pieces of a crocheted lace tablecloth, and then just like a little satin rose, and I really liked how that tied everything in. So yeah, so that is hopefully a little inspiration for a cute summer dress. You know what I think would be really cute with this is some of those fisherman sandals. They make them now in kind of that creamy white. And I've even seen some funky fun sandals in like this spring green. How fun would that be? As promised, I turned it inside out so you can see that it's possible to do French seam finishes even on a skirt that you would have had a lot of gathers with. There's patience is required, but it's doable. And the shoulder seams have French seams, all of it does. Everywhere where I joined, I've been using a lot of thread, I'll tell you that. I have gone through lots of spools. And then finally on the bottom, I used a double twin needle. I used a twin needle to adhere some vintage bias tape that I found that was a cotton poly blend. And I wanted to make sure that it kept, I mean, linen frays, everyone knows it, and I finished the edge, the raw edge with my serger, but also went back and attached this bias tape, and I think it looks so pretty and professional. And then I didn't mind, I did it on the opposite side, so the twin needles on the top, so to speak, and then because of this raw effective linen, it just turned out really cool. I think the hem looks great. So, are you inspired by this vintage vibe and fun spring or summer dress, but are not necessarily interested in self-drafting a pattern? No worries, I gathered a few dress patterns that I think will replicate this design from a variety of different garment pattern companies, and hope that you will be inspired to maybe sew up your own. First dress inspiration is the drop waist ruffle dress, which is a free pattern by fabricstore.com, and it is a PDF download. The description of the dress is simple, boxy design with a gathered skirt, button-up back, ruffle detail at the waist, feminine yet classic design, and there are side seam pockets. I like this dress because you can also add some kind of a vintage collar to it. You can even elongate those little ruffle detail at the waist. And there is a full bust adjustment tutorial on their website. The size range is US 6 to 10 and UK 10 to 14. The second dress inspiration is a vintage Vogue pattern that you most likely can get on eBay Etsy, or you might even have it in your stash. It is pattern number 1846 in printed form, and the description is a lower calf length with straight or flared skirt. The neckline has different color and variations. It's loose fitting, dropped waist bodice with a back button closure, above elbow or long sleeves with bands, and a front detachable inset. And the size ranges are 8 through 18. I would say the sewing level would be definitely more of an experienced sewist for this one. There are a lot of elements and details, but it is fun with a vintage vibe. Pattern number 3 is the Pixie Woven Dress by Style Arc Patterns, which comes in both PDF and printed form. Description: slight A-line shape, easy fit, bust darts, short sleeve with flounce, hem flounce, loop and button back opening with a V-neck. And it is knee length, but you can also elongate that length. Size range 4 through 36. And I think it's adorable, and it's got a lot of ratings, high ratings from sewists who have previously made this in the past. Dress number 4 is the Boho Dress by Berta Patterns. It is printed form, and it's number 5820. It's described as a midi dress with ruffles on the sleeves, and that the midi can easily be sewn to floor length. It has dividing seams that are described as flattering to the body, and the sewing rating is average, although I would say maybe very confident in your skills. Size ranges US 10 through 20 and Euro sizes 36 through 46. Moving on, there's McCall's dress pattern 7742. I found it in printed form, described as a loose fitting dress, front and back yokes, gathered sleeves with multiple sleeve variations, and I actually counted 5. Sewing rating easy, sizes extra small to extra large. Another fun dress to sew up. And again, it's slightly different than my design. The gathers are at the high bust, and then it's much shorter in length, but you can always lengthen the dress. And then with that V-neck, you can, again, add an interesting element collar-wise with something vintage. Use your imagination. That's what makes this journey so fun. Dress number 6, Tessuti, Tessuti, Tessuti. Yes, an Australian company. This is the Mattia dress and top. It is in both PDF and printed format. It's described as sleeveless, but again, you can add a flounce sleeve. Semi-fitted bodice with a faced boat neckline, dropped shoulders, exposed binding for the finished armholes, calf length, dropped waist dress, stitched down inseam pockets, yay, gathered skirt from mid-thigh. Sewing level, advanced beginner, and it is Australian sizes 0 through 5 and US sizes 6 through 22. And again, it is a dress and top pattern. I love this one. Last but not least, I started with a free dress pattern suggestion, and I will end with one as well. This is a free pattern by Mood Society called the Dill Dress. And it's described as eco-friendly because of the fabrics that are recommended, including linen. It features a simple tunic-like bodice top with a gorgeous ruffle bottom. And the sewing rating is beginner friendly, sizes 00 to 32. This dress really lends itself to you having the ability to make it your own, add your own flair. I like the asymmetrical gathered skirt, but you can change up the neckline, you can add lace to the sleeves and add a little bit of flounce ruffle detail. So yeah, I like this pattern. I think that again, it replicates the dress that I self-drafted, but there's lots of room to tweak it. I hope you found a little piece of vintage inspiration. Thank you so much for watching. Please consider subscribing, and I will see you next time in the sewing room. Bye.